Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Good evening, my name is Barney and I'm an alcoholic. Hi, Barney. And it is nice to be here tonight. I consider it really a great privilege to be asked to participate in an AA meeting these days. I didn't always feel that way, but I do now. I don't believe anymore that I have a right to be in these rooms. I think I burned up my rights a long time before I got to AA. I used up all my privileges and all the justice I had coming. And if I ever got justice, I'd be in big trouble, I guess. So I think it's a privilege. I think it is an absolute privilege to just come and be able to sit with you folks and to be with people who can allow me to participate in my own sobriety, and they can participate in mine and I in theirs. And somehow together I can do with you what I can't do alone. And I'm very grateful for that. And so it is, you know, I can't believe, for example, I do some of the things I do now, but I've been taught to do them in AA. You know, Lila called me about coming over here to talk on a Friday night. I work in Orange County, and I live in San Diego. This is the wrong way. I go home on weekends, and then I'm up in Orange County during the week, but I long since have learned that you say yes first and bitch about it later. And tonight really gave me a great opportunity to come up and have dinner with my youngest child, my baby. She's the youngest of my 6 children. And I married a girl in AA who had 2 children, so we raised 8 kids. But Helen was a year old when I got sober, and so she never saw me drink. And I don't know whether that's good or bad, but she never saw me drink. But in any case, it was fun. We had dinner tonight, and we came over here, and Lila and a couple of the women here remember when Helen was little, she was kind of floating around some AA meetings with my wife. And I'm married to a woman who's an alcoholic and a member of AA she's sober now 24 years plus. And she lives in La Jolla, and I always think of her sort of as the Mother Cabrini of AA in La Jolla, you know. She has all these people she sponsors. And she's very good with them. She's taught me a lot about sponsorship because I have never thought of myself as a particularly good sponsor. I never liked newcomers especially, and I never wanted to mess with them. I just, you know, I didn't have any patience, and as my wife says, I'm not a very good listener. I talk more than I should, and so it's difficult for me. But I've learned by watching her operate one-on-one with these women that she sponsors, I've really learned to what caring about somebody is all about, because she really does. She cares about these people in some way that I think I'm incapable of caring for people. I just think that because she goes and does things for them that I would never do, to be honest with you. She's just a very giving, loving human being, and I've learned a lot from her about that. And she went through a cancer. I used to drink. I'll bring that up in a minute, but I used to drink a lot. So if you do, don't worry about it. Anyway, I watched her go through a cancer scare here a couple of years ago. She had ovarian cancer, and she had surgery, and they did the whole hysterectomy number, and it was a very frightening experience for her and for me. And they felt that there were some more active cells floating around, and so they put her into chemotherapy, and she became violently ill behind chemotherapy. And she became convinced at one point that she was going to die and die very soon. And I can remember the morning when she told me that, and she screamed it out, and she was very afraid. And yet what I saw her doing the next day was talking to a baby. And instead of telling the baby about how terrified she was and how she thought she was going to die, she was listening to this girl talk about some damned hangnail problem that didn't amount to a hill of beans, really. And she sat and she listened to it. And then she had patience enough to talk to her. And I've seen her do that with people. It's amazing. And the good news is that she's now, in recent months, has been free of cancer, and she's doing fine. And we're obviously very pleased, and I think once you have something like that, there's always the fear that it's going to come back, and I think she lives with that. But anyway, she's still alive, and she's still kicking, and she's still screaming, so I know she's okay. If she yells at me, I know she feels all right. And she does yell at me, so I know she feels all right. She did as recently as today. I told her it's not right to yell at me on the phone, because it's long distance. I used to drink a lot. I didn't start drinking very much of anything till I was about 22 or 23 years old. Drinking was never a particularly important thing in my life. I had done a little bit of drinking. I'd tasted beer and I'd tasted booze because my mother, I believe, was an alcoholic. My mother drank a lot. My father drank hardly at all. He died when I was 14, and after he died, it seemed like the lid was off, and she could just drink as much as she wanted, as often as she wanted, and not be worried about what he was going to think about it. And my mother was one of 16 children in her family, and they were Irish, and they all drank like that. And we buried a lot of aunts and uncles at O'Hanley's funeral parlor in Chicago, and they were all drunks, and they would die, and they would have the wake at O'Hanley's, and we'd go there, and you'd look at the body for a while, and then you'd go in the other room, and in the other room they had the bar, and the bar was the place where everybody finally congregated, and they all got drunk and screamed at one another and hollered at one another, and had a big fight before the night was over with. And the stiff was usually all by himself. And I watched this behavior for a lot of years, and it struck me as being kind of goofy and crazy, but it was just seemed normal to me. I mean, it's the way it was. People drank and they got drunk and they got crazy. But my mother embarrassed me because of the way she drank, and because of the fact that she was out of control, and because of the fact that she cried when she drank, and she rolled on the floor when she drank, and it embarrassed me the way she acted. And I was afraid to bring friends home from school, high school, because of that. And I can remember going through that, but never once, I wasn't one of those who said, well, I'm never going to drink like that. I mean, it never occurred to me that I would do that. I mean, that's not in my makeup to behave that way. And to just get so out of control that I couldn't even control my bowels. My mother got that way, and it was awful to watch, and it was no fun. And she died much younger than she should have. And I was embarrassed by her. And yet I loved her, and she was a wonderful woman when she wasn't drinking. And she just was a great Irish lady who just had alcoholism, had the disease of alcoholism. None of us understood that. None of us knew anything about that. I wish we had. I think she'd have loved AA. She'd have found a wonderful home in AA, but it just didn't work that way. In any case, when I was a teenager, my thoughts were, I just got to get out of this crummy neighborhood we're in. We were in a South Side Chicago neighborhood where nobody owned anything, and nobody had, all apartments and 6 flats, and nobody had anything. And it was the Irish Catholic Monsignor at church, taking the last dollars away from people who had nothing. And I just watched this going on, and I just couldn't bear to be a party to this business of being poor. I hated being poor. I hated not having stuff. We didn't have any stuff. We didn't have a car. We didn't have a TV. Of course, it never occurred to me most of the people on that street didn't have TVs either. But I knew somebody that did. We used to go over and watch it. I remember 1948, we went over and watched Ed Sullivan on a TV, had a little round screen on it, just fascinated with it. But we would watch test patterns, you know, just, And, but I was angry. I was angry that my father hadn't gotten rich. I was angry that I had to live this way, and I couldn't be like some of the people I saw in the movies, and just, you know, be rich, just be so filthy rich that you're going to feel great. Because I knew, see, I related the two things. I thought if you get filthy rich, you're going to feel good. And clearly, I think in those years and through my 20s, there was something about me, I didn't feel good. What the hell was going on? I never could put labels on it because psychiatry wasn't real big in my neighborhood where I grew up. So I didn't know how to call things by their right name until I'd been in AA for quite some period of time. I didn't know that I was afraid, and if I'd have known it, I wouldn't have admitted it. But the truth is that there was a lot of fear in my life. And it isn't like the fear of a charging elephant. I'm hell, any alcoholic I know could handle that. I'm talking about the kind of fear that's just like being in a room with 2,000 mosquitoes. And they just keep coming at you, just little things that just keep bothering you and scaring you. And they're just so goddamn small that you can't get a hold of them, but you know they're there and they're just driving you nuts. And it's just a lot of stuff. And it's just bothersome, and it's just, you know, it's worrisome to me. I was worried about not getting good grades. And so I worked hard, got great grades, straight A's. If I got an A minus, it killed me, absolutely destroyed me, because I was going to be something. I was going to be successful. I was going to get rich, and baby, I was going to have some stuff, because that was going to be my measurement of success. I went to the University of Notre Dame. My poor mother used the last of my father's insurance money to send me to Notre Dame. And my attitude, I can remember very clearly, was not an attitude. I wasn't a grateful son. I didn't have a sense of gratitude. I thought, that's the least she could do for me. I got that coming. I got to get an opportunity in life here. I didn't get anything. And so I went to Notre Dame, and I wasn't drinking. I just had a bum attitude, because I got up there and there was a lot of rich guys. No women in those days, just guys. They screwed it all up now. They let them in. But anyway, we had to chase the women over at St. Mary's across the lake. It was kind of a long walk, but it was fun. But I was uncomfortable about being around guys that had money. And I could tell they had money. I remember one guy one year invited me to go to his home for Christmas. And we went to his home for Christmas, and we drove down this street in a town called Monroe, Michigan. And there was a place. There was a place that looked like a park with a hotel. And he said, "That's my house." And we're driving up to this place, and they had servants. I mean, they had it all. And I was impressed, but I was angry and frustrated and afraid that somebody was going to find out how poor I was and what a grunge I was and where I came from, and it really bothered me. And I didn't want anybody to know that. And so I learned very early on how to con people. I learned very early on how to look slick. I learned very early on how to look cool, how to look together, how to look like no matter what's going on, to just look fine. And if you look fine, they're going to think you're doing fine, and they'll leave you alone. And they'll let you be successful. You got to look successful if you're going to be successful. And so I learned how to do all those things. But down deep inside, man, I felt so inadequate I could die. I felt inadequate and not up to the standards even that I set for myself. And I set tremendously high goals for myself. I would set them way out there someplace. And of course, what would happen is that I would just miss them. And then I would feel really destroyed, really crushed, really like I'd failed miserably. And so, to punish myself the next time, I just set the goal a little higher. And all that means is I'm going to miss it by that much more. And so while I was achieving great things in some people's eyes, I was a failure in my own eyes. I wasn't making it. I wasn't successful. I wasn't as good as I should have been. And I got in the radio broadcasting business in college, and I loved it. And I got in theater, and I loved it. And there was something about being on a stage and being somebody else that was great. And it never occurred to me, I guess I don't like being me very much. And I wrote papers in school, great long papers on this issue of acting and being somebody else and how wonderful it all was. And a professor of mine pointed out to me one time, he says, you know, most people don't feel that way. I said, well, I do. But I was out of step, and I knew something was wrong, and I was just kind of goofy, and finally I just decided I didn't need to go to journalism classes anymore because I thought they were wasting my time in those journalism classes. And I told the head of the Department of Journalism what I thought about his talents. And I missed some classes, and they had rules in those days about missing classes, and they suspended me for a semester, and I went home. After 3 years at Notre Dame, I went home, and my mother was just devastated. Her son had gotten kicked out of Notre Dame, and I got a job on the railroad, switching cars on the railroad in Chicago. And then I got a day job at Marshall Field selling leather goods, and I was desperately trying to figure out who I am and where I'm going and what am I going to do. And I felt like nothing. I felt like nothing, and that was the problem. And that drove me crazy. Just feeling like such a damn loser just made me crazy. Now, somewhere in my early 20s, I made the magic discovery that sooner or later every alcoholic has to make. And it's such a simple thing. You would think for people like us that they would put a plaque on the wall when the discovery is made, or somebody would write it down or ring a bell or something. It's happened to Barney, isn't it wonderful? And the discovery was simple. No matter how I feel, no matter what's going on in my life, no matter how intense I am, no matter how much I hate them all because they're successful and rich, and no matter how mad I get because I can't have every woman that I see, and because I can't have every car that I drive by, and it just makes me crazy. No matter how intense I feel, and no matter how it's all going, when I drink, I feel better. Somebody should have written it down. Actually, somebody had written it down in 1939 in a little blue book called Alcoholics Anonymous. Because when Bill sat in that little office in New Jersey, actually in 38, he was sitting there they described a long yellow pad of paper. He sat there writing all this stuff, getting notes from Philadelphia and Akron and Cleveland, but really writing what he wanted to write. He later said, we are more than 100 men and women. Bullshit, there were 87. He admitted that later. He just liked round numbers. And he said, besides, I figured, true. By the time they published it, he figured there'd be 100, so he put 100. Oh, 100. Nothing alcoholic about him. But he wrote in there, we are men and women who essentially like the effect produced by alcohol. 1939, he wrote that when I was 3 years old. I discovered it when I was 21 or 22. I didn't know I'd discovered it, but I knew. I didn't know, but I knew. When I drink, I feel better. Now, there's a little hook on it. And it's the damnedest thing. It's sad, really. I have this wonderful elixir that makes me feel so good. Just wonderful. And I seem to take a bath in it. I like it so much. But the hook on it is, once I begin to drink, I don't seem to be able to stop. I seem to get drunk a lot, and I seem to cause trouble a lot, and I seem to say things I shouldn't say, and people talk about blacking out. I didn't know there were blackouts, but I was blacking out. I would forget. I'd forget where I was. I'd forget where my car was. I'd forget what the hell city I was in sometimes. Just that I travel around, I move when I drink. I move quick. And I go from bar to bar, and I go from city to city sometimes country to country. And there's nothing like, coming to in Kingston, Jamaica on a Saturday afternoon. And all you can remember is having a couple of drinks in Detroit on Friday night. What the hell, where am I? What'd I do here? Why did I do this? And you get home, of course, and the question is, where have you been, you know? Why do you do these things? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And after a while, people start threatening your drinking, of course, because they suggest to you, people that like me, people that really cared about me, suggested to me from time to time that it appeared that I might have a drinking problem. And I know that's not true. I know that I don't have a drinking problem because booze makes me feel good. That's not a problem. When I drink, I feel better, damn it. And by the way, and I didn't even know this then, only about 7% of us had that wonderful experience. Do you know that? Yeah, there's only about 7% of us. I mean, hell, I'd be sitting in a bar or in a room or in a party or someplace, and I'm drinking and they're drinking. Hell, it looks like we're all doing the same thing, doesn't it? I mean, he's having scotch and I'm having scotch. Why am I the guy that goes to Jamaica? What the hell is this? I don't know. The only way I have to measure that there's all these social drinkers and me is that they go home. I have no other measurement. They disappear. They go, oh, what happened to Charlie? He went home. Oh, he's a spoiled sport. Screw him. Because as those people go home, new people come in, and then I can have fun with them. And about 7% of them are going to be like me. And of course, ultimately, I finally filter down to where I'm only drinking with my 7% of the crowd, because otherwise I feel like a weirdo. I don't want to be around those social drinkers. They make me nervous anyway. And it turns out, and this really surprised me, I never learned this till I'd been in AA for some period of time. Social drinkers, it turns out, don't even like the feeling I'm after. That's what the hell's the matter with them. They get a couple of drinks and you're trying to have a third drink and somebody wants to go to Tijuana and they're saying, oh no, I don't think so, I'm beginning to feel it. And you just want to grab them by the throat and say, yeah, now it's getting good, isn't it? When do we have about 10, baby? And they can't deal with it, they can't handle it, they don't like it. And they think about things that I never thought about, like, well, I have to drive home. Yeah, no problem, just... Well, yes, but I have to go to work tomorrow. Oh, God. They got so many weak, lame excuses about it. Jesus. No fun with those people. And I spent a lot of my time trying to explain to social drinkers why I did what I did. And the problem is they're never going to understand because they don't identify. They don't like that feeling. I'm going for it, and they don't like it. The thing I experience when I drink alcohol is reserved for only about 7 to 10% of us who drink. That wonderful, marvelous experience that every alcoholic in this room takes for granted. Social drinkers have never felt it. They don't know what that's like. They don't know. When the guy says, let's go to Tijuana, they don't know what it's like to say, I'm driving! Screw those federales, let's go! Think I'm afraid of those guys? Jesus. Well, this went on for a lot of years. My wife ran out of humor. She divorced me. And I was mad about my children. I was just mad about I had these 6 children. And I said, no. I said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to demand custody of the 6 children. And she says, oh, you can have them. And she left. And some judge I didn't even know ordered my house sold. And the 2 lawyers of the divorce case split what was left. And I ended up broke. I didn't have any money. And she handed me a bunch of bills, said, "Here's, pay these, jerk." I've been trying to do it for 6 years. About 90 grand, I guess. I don't know what it was close. I can't pay that. I didn't have any money. So I took my 6 kids and this one was a year old. And the oldest one was 12. And I got this apartment in Santa Monica, and I was over there, and I thought, "What, God almighty, what am I going to do? This is terrible." And I was telling Helen tonight, I was trying to describe my feelings those last few months of the drinking, the loneliness, the absolute isolated loneliness, that terrible feeling of loneliness that was just horrible. And it came on me in that apartment. And I don't know what other people do when life gets that bad and when the crisis hits their lives and when it's all falling apart. I don't know what other people do. I know what I do. I drink because it makes me feel better. The other discovery I had made was stopping drinking, because I used to do that sometimes. I'd go on the wagon for periods of time just to get them off my ass. I would quit drinking for a while, and the experience I found was, if I stay sober too long, a week and a half or more, I get very edgy. I get very uncomfortable. I get very nervous. Life is not the same. It's really boring, and it's dull, and it's no fun, and I'm crazy. That's sobriety. And so I find that I have to start drinking again the next time. And when I do, I feel better, and I wonder what the hell I waited so long for. So it occurred to me that I didn't have a drinking problem, really. If I had to describe it, I would have called it a sobriety problem. In the current vernacular, I don't do sobriety well. And that's how I felt. This is awful, sobriety. It's boring and dull, and who wants that? I gotta have a few drinks, baby, just to keep it going. And I knew success was gonna happen for me one of these days again, and I knew that I was gonna get some stuff again. I'd lost it all, but I knew I was gonna get it back. I had been a television news anchorman. I'd done very well. I'd been very successful. I'd made a lot of money. Spent it all, but made a lot. And she divorced me, and I'm in this apartment in Santa Monica, and I'm trying to figure out what the hell to do. And I got drunk one more time. And I kind of came out of it in the middle of the night, and I realized I was drunk, and I realized those 6 children were home alone. And I thought, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I got to take care of those kids. I need to stop drinking for a little while. Not really alcoholic. I don't really have a disease. It's not I just need to stop for a little while. Look, I'm a self-made man. I got rich before. I can do it again. I'll quit drinking for 6 months. No booze. Nothing. I'll tough it out. 6 months. And then I'll get my bills paid, and I'll have my life together, and I'll be fine. I'll start getting some stuff again, and I'm going to feel good. And I called a guy who was an AA guy I'd met sometime before, and I told him, I said, "I'm not alcoholic. You have to understand, I'm not alcoholic." He said, "Yeah, I know. Social drinkers call me all the time at 3 o'clock in the morning. What are you doing?" I said, "No," I got a lot of problems, baby. It got nothing to do with drinking, okay? My wife left me. I got these 6 kids to take care of. I got no money. I owe about 90 grand. I've just had a lot of bad breaks. And I'm just in kind of a position where I know if I just don't drink for about like 6 months, I'm going to be fine. He said, "Oh, that's great. We only do it a day at a time." I said, No, 6 months. And that was the first time I noticed with this man, and it went on for many years. He became my sponsor. And what happened was, every time I would say something to me, he would respond in such a way that indicated to me he hadn't heard what I said. I would tell him I was thinking about killing the secretary of a meeting, and he would tell me to make coffee at that meeting and ask that secretary if I could do that. And that would be a privilege for me. I said, "I hate the son of a bitch. I told you I want to kill him." He said, "That's why I want you to make the coffee." Couldn't hear me, didn't understand. So I would go make the coffee, and then I wouldn't hate the secretary after a couple of weeks. Odd things like that would happen to me. I would tell him that I hated a meeting so badly that if I went in there, I tell you what, I went to these meetings and they kept doing the same crap every night. They read the same stuff out of the book every night like they couldn't remember it. And they always had some guy read it that couldn't read very well, and then they would applaud. I don't understand. Why do they do this? I got one of those books. They gave me one of those books. If I want to know what's in the book, I'll read the damn book. Let's do something else. Went to meetings, made coffee. I became a floor mopper. This guy got me busy, and he got me active, and he got me picking up newcomers at places like the Royal Palms and the Bimini. These are not two delightful hotels down at the Skid Row area, and I don't want to go down there, and it's not up to my standards, and I don't like newcomers. And I would pick them up, put them in the car, come on, let's go. We go to the meeting, and I know what the hell to say to them, see, because I don't want to tell them I don't want to. If I tell them the truth, it's going to hurt them. They might be alcoholics. I don't want to hurt these guys. What am I going to say? I hate the meetings. I think the book is badly written. I don't like speakers, and especially people with money, because they're really phonies. And I had the spiritual ones I'm just going to kill. So I went to the sponsor of mine. This is the truth. This is exactly how I felt. I went to the sponsor of mine, and I told him, I said, I can't pick up these newcomers anymore, because I'm going to tell them how I really feel, and they're going to get drunk. He said, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you read them the book? Now, the book I had was pretty much collecting dust on a shelf at my house. And I said, I can't read the book when I'm driving. He said, well, here's an idea then. Why don't you, the night before you pick them up, just get a page of the book. You're a smart guy. And memorize a couple of paragraphs. Then, when they're in the car, tell them what you read. I said, I can do that. It never occurred to me that he was forcing me into the book. It never dawned on me. I memorized the whole damn book before I realized what he was doing. But I would get in the car with these guys, and we'd be driving to the meeting, and I'd say, how long have you been sober? And the guy'd say, 28 minutes, whatever it was. I'd say, well, I got 34 days. Oh, really? Yeah. I bet you don't know what's on page 64. No. And I would tell them, here's what it says, and I would tell them it was on page 64, and they would go, oh. It was really impressive for these guys. I made coffee, and I mopped floors, and I picked up newcomers, and I greeted people at the Wednesday night Echo Park meeting, and I hung around and did this for 7 months, and I was so crazy and so nervous and so edgy. I hadn't had a drink in 7 months, and I was getting real bad. I have this horrible sobriety problem. And if I'm sober too long, it just gets unbearable for me. And I'm ready to go. I got to have a drink. I know I got to have a drink. And I'm sitting in a meeting one night, and I'm plotting my move. I'm going to get out of here. And a guy got up and talked, and I identified with him. And I didn't mean to. It just happened. And I went up to the guy after the meeting, and I said, Jesus, if what you're saying is true, I may be alcoholic. He said, aren't you the guy that mops the floors on Tuesday? I said, yeah. He says, how long have you been around here, kid? I said, 7 months. He said, you're a quick study, aren't you? I started to follow this guy around, and wherever I found out he was going to talk, I would go and listen to him, and then another guy I would identify with, and I'd go follow him around for a while. And I had a whole series of people like that were my gurus, and I'd listen to them for a while. And then it would turn out they had feet of clay, and then I would go to the next guru, because I can't stand people that aren't perfect. And I would find imperfections always. But I stayed sober. And I got a year cake, and I got a 2-year cake, and I got a job with CBS back east for a ton of money. And I met and married a girl in AA, and she had these 2 kids, and we put these 8 kids together, and we went back to Philadelphia. And I found out that I didn't like the meetings back east very much. They were different. And if, I'm an alcoholic, I translate different bad. They weren't up to my standards. They don't read chapter 5. They don't read the traditions. What the hell's the matter with these people? They don't even say hi to the speaker. You get up, my name is Barney, and I'm an alcoholic, and they all just sit there, you know. So I started a meeting California style. We read chapter 5, we read the traditions, and people are actually coming in saying, why do you read the same crap at every meeting? California style! Well, I picked the speakers and I made the coffee and I was the greeter. Became a real ego trip for me, I'll tell you that meeting. But I wouldn't go to many of the other meetings. And finally, my wife and I were fighting a lot. The kids seemed to be having problems. My older children were using and drinking, which really pissed me off. You don't remember this, do you, darling? And but your older brothers and sisters were a little funny. And I was really getting mad. And I'd come home, you know, they had a beer party in the living room, you know, everybody drunk, you know. Hi, you want to meet my friend Charlie? Really made me angry. I'm out there trying to get rich, trying to be successful, trying to get some stuff. Guy with 18 years said to me one night, he said, how you doing? I said, do you really want to know? And I told him. He says, well, how many meetings do you go to? And I said, what's that got to do with it? I'm sober 3.5 years, Phil. I haven't had a drink in a long time, I'm fine. So how many newcomers you work with? I said, well, I don't do that very well. I never was very successful with that. Everybody I ever worked with got drunk. He said, what are you doing about the third step? And I said, I don't believe in God. He said, that's not what I asked you. What are you doing about the third step? And I said, well, I made sort of, so I could get to the fourth step. I decided my higher power is going to be all of the alcoholics around the world linked together in spirituality. He said, how's that working for you today? I said, doesn't work at all, it's bullshit, you know that. Podium talk, come on. She says, well, I think you got to go to those meetings whether you think they're properly run or not. I think you're going to have to start working with newcomers because they may save your life. And I think you're going to have to begin to pray. And I said, Phil, I can't pray. It makes me feel like a phony. He said, that's all right. You are a phony. I said, what does that mean? He said, say a phony prayer. To a phony God? Sure. What kind of a prayer? He says, we got one in the book just for guys like you. Sure enough, pointed it out. My sponsor says if you want to hide anything from an alcoholic, put it in the big book. And they had this prayer in there. I said, by God, there it is. And I start saying the prayer. And I started going to meetings, and I started threatening newcomers. And some of them stayed sober, and I don't know what the hell to do with them when they're sober. I can't get rid of them. Keep calling me up, want to, to go to meetings, and they want to know how to work the steps, and they want to know. I don't know. Shit. I got fired from my job finally, and I came back to California, and I was going to meetings, and I was working with newcomers, and I was trying to say this prayer, and I was doing all these things, and I worked down in San Diego for a while, and I was so unhappy and so miserable because my life was just going into the tubes, and now I'm 6 years sober, and I was really unhappy. It's just not supposed to be that way when you're 6 years sober. My wife was leaving me. I had no money. I ran out of money. I quit my job. When I don't work, I run out of money. It's funny how that works. And I was broke, and the bank was taking my house, and it was just awful. And I didn't know what the hell to do. I felt the promises were denied me. And if anybody had walked up to me at a meeting and said, Barney, how do you work the third step? If I had given them an honest answer, it would have been, I don't know, I never tried that one, really. That was the honest answer. I just say this phony prayer, I don't know. I went down to the beach in La Jolla, and I cried and I cried and I cried one night. I was I wanted to get drunk, but I knew that wasn't going to work. I'd been to too many meetings. And you're kind of screwed when you know drinking ain't going to help. And I cried and I cried and I cried, and I finally ended up saying that prayer, and I thought, what am I doing that for? I don't believe in anything anyway. And I finally looked up and I said, okay, if you're there,
You SOB, I give up. You got to understand, I give up. I can't make it. I cannot be successful. I'm not a good father. I'm not a good husband. I'm a terrible employee. I got no money. I got no stuff. I'm so unhappy I can't stand it. And I can't even get drunk to fix it anymore. I'm stuck with these AA morons. And I just gave up. Now, I had no idea that night for a long time after that I was beginning the really ugly, painful process in AA that we call surrender. What I had never noticed about the third step is it talks about my life and my will. That's all I have. There isn't anything else. It means my money, my job, my wife, my kids, everything. Surrender. And I didn't know that. All I ever surrendered was my right to drink alcohol. But when I reached that point at 6 years where I had nothing and nothing was working, I didn't have any choice. If I'd had one more good idea, you'd have a different speaker tonight, I think. But I didn't have any more good ideas. I didn't even have any bad ones. I went and got a stupid job, went to work for a place, decided all I could do, all I got left, I can just show up and look alert. I have no other choice. I just go to work every day, do what they tell me to do, keep my mouth shut, and hope they don't fire me. And that's the way I went to work. I did the same thing this morning. I do it every day. I just go, show up, look alert, listen to some 26-year-old producer tell me how dumb I am, and I go do whatever he asks me to do. And they send me money. It's an amazing thing. My children have all grown and survived and done quite well. And I'm proud of all of them. Proud of all my children. And I love them deeply. And now they have these grandchildren. We have 8 of those, and 2 more coming this year. And the biggest problem I have is trying to convince the grandchildren that I love them more than the other grandfathers. I find bribery is very effective. I don't know how to get along with my wife. I don't know how to make her like me. I don't know how to make her love me. I don't know how to have a relationship with somebody. How the hell do I know? And I just do at home now what I do at work. I just show up and look alert. And hope she doesn't fire me. The only thing about her is she doesn't send me money. She's a hell of a woman, as I've already said, and I'm mad about her now. I've learned so much from her about love and about human relationships and about helping people and about just how to feel good, just how to feel okay. And I'm going home tonight, you know, and I'm going to look at her like my sponsor taught me. I'm going to say, because I haven't seen her for a week, so I'll say, "How are you?" And then listen for the answer. That's the hard part. I'll say one other thing and then I'm going to shut up. I finally have come to understand what Chuck C. was talking about when he was alive, when he said, "I believe the first 2 words of the Our Father mean exactly what they say." We say that prayer at every meeting. We hold hands and we say, "Our Father." I think those 2 words mean exactly what they say. I think he's my father and I'm his kid. That's my relationship today. I believe that he loves me the way I love my children. They can't do enough bad for me to stop loving them. There is nothing they can do to make me stop loving them. I can be really angry about some of the things they do. I can not like some of the stuff they do, but I never would stop loving them, and I don't care what they do. Because I love them that much and that deeply, and I love them just without any bounds. That's how I feel about my kids. I think God feels that way about me, except that he's perfect. So he must be capable of enormous love. He must, as a matter of fact, as I heard some priest say the other day, he is love. He is love. And I think he loves me as a child, and I have to approach him that way. And I talk to him as his son, and he's my father, and that's how we get along. I don't have to get into a lot of heavy theological discussion about God. I think the first 2 words of the Our Father mean exactly what they say. Look, if you're new and you don't believe in God, it's okay. If the talk about God bothers you, it's okay. Spiritual people used to piss me off. I'll tell you something. Listen to this. You can have any higher power you want to, as long as you're reasonably sure it isn't you. Think about that tonight, will you?
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think. Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control is connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right, but I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.